Welcome back to the desk, ladies and gentlemen. It's week number 5 of the SPL, and today we've got Cloud9 versus eLevate. But before we get into the games, let's just give you one little fun piece of information. MLC Stealth mid laner for Cloud9, he's actually nominated for an interesting award. The Golden Joysticks is an award that's been going on for over 10 years, and you can voice your opinion and vote for him to be Esports Personality of the Year if that's something that you want to take a part in. Certainly, I've already put in my vote, so
I did as well.
Go ahead and do that up. Help our buddy MLC Stealth. You guys can check out the link right at the bottom of your screen.
Look at that face.
Easy access.
How can you not vote for that face? I don't remember who else is in it, but no one is even close to Stealth.
I mean, real talk. We're always up here talking about the game itself and how talented these players are. Well, I want you to know that Brett, MLC Stealth, is really one of the stand-up dudes in the scene, and I mean, he's just genuinely nice. All the dude eats is chicken nuggets, but he's genuinely nice.
He's engaged as well. Like this kid has been in the scene for a long time. I was actually, I'm giving myself a little props here. I was actually on his first team. We were on a team together, Vex Gaming, which eventually turned into Denial.
I remember Vex.
And then he left us for Snipe because we were bad, but that's neither here nor there. Vote for Stealth. He's an awesome guy. Make sure to check him out for the Golden Joystick Award.
Yeah, so that'll be coming up right now. And don't forget, he's playing for Cloud9. They're going to take on eLevate in just a couple of minutes. Why don't we take a look at the standings before we get into the game itself? We'll take a look at eLevate, unfortunately, on the bottom. They did find their first win last week, trying to continue that. And Cloud9, 3-7. They've had some struggles along the way, but eLevate is an interesting team for them to go up against.
Two things here for me. 3-7, Cloud9 obviously losing 4 games last week to unfortunate circumstances. That is not, the record does not, sitting in 7th seed, they are not the 7th seeded team if you're looking at it from a pure skill standpoint. eLevate, however, 1-9. They actually brought in Aduro as just a sub. He was just a sub for Unrelinquished who couldn't make it last week. He's actually now their permanent member in mid and also the captain. So going from out of the SPL to being an SPL captain in one game, Aduro obviously showing that he was a big part of their win last week.
It's no surprise to me. Aduro is one of the more talented people in the scene. He's definitely a great player. And as far as the outside of the lines type of stuff, I mean, Aduro is a character that's been around. He played as a substitute for the mighty Dignitas way back when a couple of years ago.
I thought you were going to say the Mighty Ducks. I'm like, really? The Mighty Ducks? I didn't know they had a Smite team.
Maybe next year. But yeah, he played as a substitute underneath one of the more strong teams at that point in time. And then from there, played for the Rambozo. So he's learned how to win and he's learned how to lose. And having that mentality surrounded by the 4 other players here on the squad that don't have as much experience, having that XP in the bank is going to be a real big swing for eLevate, I think.
Yeah, he also played for Legion of Carrots last year with DJ Pernicus. Their team finishing, I believe it was 6th or 5th. It was one of those two. It was very close. But he's been around in the scene for so long. And while he hasn't always been like, oh, it's Aduro, he's the best mid laner in the world, he's always been like, okay, Aduro. I mean, you can't go wrong with him as your mid laner. I think he's going to bring a lot to that team. Their opponents, though, going to be Cloud9, currently 3-7. Last season's world champions struggling here in the most critical of splits. JeffHindla, BaRRaCCuDDa combining for the dual lane. MLC Stealth once again in the mid, Andinster in the jungle, and Omega having left for Eager, they've brought in Baskin.
Baskin's been definitely a change around as far as the type of gameplay that Cloud9 is used to. Omega played more of the defensive solo laner, Baskin more of the aggressive sort of carry out of that
Seeing
solo
like
lane.
Fenrir's and such.
Exactly. A lot of Lokis actually in his past, so that's the sort of mentality coming into it. So struggle stepped originally a little bit, but as we moved forward, we saw this team get a little bit more comfortable now. Cloud9, as we said, 3-7. We're at the halfway mark of the split. It's really important that Cloud9 starts to get the ball rolling. There's not that many more weeks left.
They need 2 wins, right? I mean, this is a doubleheader week. They're 3-7. In theory, they could win out 4 games and finish 7-7, and then making regionals is a much more realistic run. If they fall here and then also lose to TSM, it's going to be rough for them. They can't just trade out with eLevate. They have to win these games if they want to make a run for regionals. If they lose even one of this, it starts to look very bad for them. Getting into picks and bans, though, first pick going to be Team eLevate, and they're going to ban away Giannis straight away.
Giannis, they don't want to give him to MLC Stealth, one of the, as we keep saying, one of the more popular mid laners. Giannis is just a general good pick right now. It brings damage and utility at the same time, and MLC Stealth has proven to be very strong on it. Geb and Ao Kuang, pretty standard bans. At least the Ao Kuang is very potent as an assassin.
Wukong has kind of died off a little bit. He's still very strong, but the nerf, we're starting to see North America let him through a little bit. Cloud9, though, still respecting it. Serqet is available as Khepri's banned away. I expect eLevate to pick this up, and if not, they're giving it to Andinster, which is not a very good person you want to have on Serqet. He's going to gank your lane a lot, and yeah, eLevate's going to take that. They're right. They're like, no thank you, Andinster. I don't want to visit from the boogeyman tonight.
So Serqet's going to be picked up first. We've seen a lot of Serqet be respected in North America. One of the more popular first bands here on this side of the pond. So eLevate goes ahead, takes the Assassin. And then on Cloud9, the ever-popular Nuwa will be picked up for the middle lane, leaving Cloud9 with one more pick.
Cloud9 have really started grabbing this Nuwa in the first position, much like Paradigm have. These teams are really starting to respect Nuwa, the space she gives. That's most likely going to be going to Stealth. We haven't seen Cloud9 run it in the solo lane. And same with Paradigm, right? Other teams who are picking Nuwa, we're seeing a lot of it in solo lane. Cloud9 and Paradigm, who are first picking it, it's almost guaranteed to go to the mid lane.
Just so much
Wukong.
opportunity for her to be able to move, especially towards the Gold Fury early on in the game. Nuwa can offer that. Sun Wukong going to be locked in for Cloud9. If you guys have been watching the SPL, especially last week, you've seen the power, the potency that is Sun Wukong with that Bluestone pennant, able to clear the wave and give out a large amount of poke.
So Wukong has always been strong, but one of the main reasons we didn't see him first picked or priority picked always is he struggles clearing the wave until his cudgel is basically maxed out. And even then, if you're not ahead, you're typically not clearing it with just that ability. You have to use two. But Bluestone is actually allowing Wukong to one-shot the waves very early on, pre-level 10, something we typically don't see. It's allowing him not only to dominate his lane, but also dominate any opponents he's typically facing.
I mean, you put the Bluestone on Wukong and the Mystical Mail that most likely comes on this character.
Mystical Meerkat?
And there's just too much control, too much push in that lane. Left-hand side, we have an Osiris being picked up, which will most likely find himself in the solo lane, and an Isis, very, very standard pick, and one of Adoro's personal favorites.
Quick Thor pick coming out. That's going to Andinster in the jungle to match up against Serqet, and in a direct one-on-one matchup, Serqet's typically going to win it. She just has the kit to able to taunt out and silence out most of what Thor does. However, Thor is going to have that huge rotational power, as well as the Nuwa ult that's going to be able to put damage on everyone across the map on the opposing side. So pretty good counter gank and gank coming out from C9 right now. BaRRaCCuDDa going to be banned away from them. By them, excuse me.
Freya's an interesting choice for me here. By no means do I doubt her power. I just don't. I'm not sure how much Vessalius has really been playing her. We see a lot of standard hunters come out from him, Medusa and Hou Yi usually.
And for me, I like the ban because in his standard hunter matchups, Vessalius hasn't really won a lane, right? He's lost lanes and he's gone even. And against BaRRaCCuDDa, as long as you take Freya away, which is something that maybe he's very good with in ranked, but hasn't really done much in the pro league. I mean, Freya's always like, her auto attacks are wider when she activates Pulse. It's just, I think it's a very safe pick. Like, go a hunter that you know Vessalius is not going to beat you in lane with.
That makes a little bit of sense. So the three bans are out. Freya on the right-hand side, Cloud9 knocking her out, as we said. And then Athena could be the ban coming out from Team eLevate, as Cloud9 has selected none of their Guardians. Their Team eLevate is assuming that Sun Wukong will wind up in the solo lane. Of course,
give me the Bacchus, Jeff.
Sun Wukong can be played in the support role, but JeffHindla really not known for those warriors.
They're going to counterpick the support. This is something you don't typically see most teams do. Normally, JeffHindla grabs a very early gap, but since that was banned away, and Athena afterwards, he's going to get his choice. eLevate also has not picked up the support yet, so this is just a pure, we want to counter their dual lane to match up. The Xbalanque locked in, eLevate, they're looking for their hunter, looking for the support, and JeffHindla's going to pick whatever he wants into it. He's going to know a matchup to favor.
Well, with the Xbalanque, they're going to have to look towards more of a clear-oriented Guardian, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, Sylvanus is still available, but it's not always that bad with Xbalanque as it is with other, I don't know, it depends.
What's the perfect support here to go with Xbalanque?
I mean, in lane it's Sylvanus, but that may not also be the best pick up against a Serqet, right? So it's a little bit interesting here. Against a Serqet, Osiris, Isis, who can lock you down, I don't think you want to go the Sylvanus. And
well,
it doesn't even matter at this point because it's actually going to be on Metyankey.
Exactly. eLevate comes back and stops Cloud9 from having to think about if Sylvanus is worth it being put in that position. So Ullr and Sylvanus can be picked up for eLevate. Ullr, one of the more, honestly, skill-oriented hunters. This is a character that we see not necessarily come in and out of the meta, but come in and out of the player specifically. And let's just talk about Sobek.
Yeah, Sobek brings a lot here. There was 4 main choices for, your typical Guardians. There was Sobek, there was Bacchus, there was Ymir and Ares. And Ymir and Ares, you don't really want to pick those into the Serqet Isis. They have so much lockdown potential early, and it's very likely they cut off your rotation, so they'll use them with Bacchus and Sobek. And JeffHindla, while he likes both, I think he's valuing his pluck more than anything, able to really displace team fights and keep Serqet locked down.
Now, we've seen this character. Sobek is a tumultuous character. We've seen him do very, very well, but we've also seen him do very, very poorly. A lot of what Sobek brings to the table is that pluck, as you said, charge prey. The downside is if you miss it, you're now surrounded by the enemy in a bad spot. So this is a really skill-dependent god, I would say, and I'm going to be watching Jeff to see how often he lands these plucks.
And one thing, too, with the Bacchus is you're almost committed to blink there, and that's going to take away a typical defensive active because Bacchuses, they like to leap in, right? Sobek's pluck, it can be used a little bit more, and he also has displacement afterwards, whereas Bacchus, a lot more susceptible to getting turned on here. Early on, though, just some warding coming out from both teams. 2 wards Cloud9 has posted on this left-hand side. Or, excuse me, eLevate.
So we have eLevate versus Cloud9. eLevate, as you just said. On the left side, ScaryD going to be playing in that solo lane Osiris, and the long lane will be made up of Metyankey and Vessalius on the Sylvanus and Ullr, respectively. New captain and mid laner for this squad, Adoro, going to be making his spot on Isis, and the jungle, Mytherea.
The guy just joins the team for one set. He wins one game, loses the other, and then they're like, yeah, you can be captain.
I actually give credit to eLevate there, believe it or not.
For giving it to them.
For recognizing that, hey, Adoro's a good player and all, but ScaryD, Mytherea, Metyankey, and Vessalius, a couple of these players... exactly. A couple of these players have sort of teetered on competitive play, but Adoro's been there. He's won. He's lost, as we said. He's got the experience. So a lot of credit to the guys on eLevate for recognizing the fact and letting Adoro step up and become sort of a leader for them.
And Metyankey, I believe, was the only player on this team who had played an SPL game before, and I think it was like for Season 1 Thirst, who won one game. Like, it just, there was no experience. It was the team of the rookies. Mid-camps, though, being aggressed on one goes in favor of Andinster, and it looks like the second got taken away. Well,
this is still Season 2, folks, just because you see a early mid-camp fight doesn't mean that it's last season. A little bit of swing around. ScaryD and Baskin matching up in the solo lane. We've got a Wukong versus an Osiris there. Wukong with this Bluestone, we talked about just how powerful it is, and the health bars are going to tell you the exact same story.
Yeah, and ScaryD, I believe, no, he went boots, and did he go red pot? I don't think he did, but he doesn't have as many potions as Baskin. You see ScaryD sitting on almost no health, and he's really relying on that death toll, but he's so pushed up and so low as Andinster rotates in, and he almost probably would have died to Baskin either way. ScaryD on no health, very aggressive.
Just a very easy first blood for Andinster, honestly. Didn't even have to use the stun, came in, hit one button, and ScaryD falls to the wayside.
He had first blood. Baskin was going to solo him, like straight up. Like, I don't know what ScaryD was doing, way out of position there, and he's going to fall. eLevate, though, Adoro and Mytherea so far doing a good job of sharing camps, and it looks like a pause coming out from Cloud9. It looks like they're going to be having some issues. We're going to be getting back into the game here shortly. But early first blood coming out from Cloud9, looking good for them.
Early rotation coming out from Andinster, and Thor is one of these characters that can perform before level 5. I think we talk about this the most when it comes to junglers, Kevin. Hun Bats is one of these, like, before level 5, I don't want to see him. He doesn't really do anything. He doesn't bring anything to the party. Now, Bastet does, and Thor definitely excels early on.
He can really lock down targets. Berserker's Barrage, and just the passive coming out from Thor is so strong. Yeah. So what he does is it's stack-based. Every person near you gives you 15 power up to 3 stacks. That is 45 physical power, up to 45 physical power early on. That's huge.
I mean, think about it. Deathbringer has 50 physical power on it, 45 physical power just for being surrounded by a teammate and a player. So that's gonna boost up a lot. Now, as we get back into this game, 2 minutes on the clock. MLC Stealth is offline. Just 2 minutes on the clock, but 9 minutes of pause time have been used, so Cloud9 no longer with a pause to their name. Unfortunately, for the second week in a row, have to continue 4v5.
ScaryD once again pushed up, but this time he's level 5, has his ult available. He's going to be slowed, but he's going to be slowing Andinster in response. Just get out of this. Something to note here, as the connection issues continue to plague Cloud9. For the second week in a row, Cloud9 has not checked in a sub, the only team to not do so. So if MLC Stealth can't get back online, they will not have anyone to play for him in Game 2.
Yeah, very unfortunate circumstances. But what I do like here, the side that's not being affected right now is solo lane, and ScaryD is just being camped by the members of Cloud9, and a large part because ScaryD actually performed very, very well for eLevate last week.
I think he was the reason they were able to find the win last week.
And Cloud9 doing their homework, understanding the past games, and watching that, make sure to pay extra attention to the player that performed well last week. I love the homework coming out from Cloud9. As we said, they're in the 7th spot, maybe not deservingly so, but they're coming out ready to win.
ScaryD, though, continuing to battle in the solo lane. And Baskin actually played a big part. We saw this happen last week as well. Cloud9 forced to fight 4v5 against Cognitive Gaming twice. Cognitive Gaming played a perfect game. They played exactly how they should, and eLevate should not let up. Last week, Cog, what they did was just slowly invade. They didn't force fights. They just allowed themselves to slowly gain level leads and experience leads and take away the jungle from Cloud9. And Cloud9 kind of just let it happen, even though they had some leads in some lanes. They may be trying to look to force fights here, but it seems that eLevate's the one looking for something.
Well, Pole's going to miss by Metyankey, so these mid camps will be able to be taken by the blue team. And, you know, one of the important things here is I'm not trying to put this in a good light or anything, but Cloud9 it's definitely possible. We saw Eager perform very well 4v5, so one of the things...
It's always possible.
One of the things that has to do with the other side, the 5-man team, is it's very easy to, sort of like when you have a 10K, 12K, 15K lead, it's very easy to just
make mistakes.
Think you can do more than you actually can. So eLevate, while they definitely have the advantage, they have to be careful how much they try to press it.
Andinster, though, forced to ult in the mid lane we saw, and eLevate going to immediately take that advantage and try and steal away the speed buff. Baskin rotating in, not going to be able to find anything here. Andinster and JeffHindla are rotating in here, and we're going to see a stun out. Aduro gets flipped into the team.
That's going to be surrounded by Cloud9 members. Aduro still alive, making great use of the circle of protection, but JeffHindla gets the kill for his team. That's the kill number 2 on the side of Cloud9, and one more person will die. ScaryD picks that one up. JeffHindla falls.
It's a trade out, and ScaryD continuing to aggress onto Andinster in his own jungle here. Andinster just can't fight into this Osiris, who has Boots 2, has his death toll online. Boots 3, though, are finished for Andinster here. He's going to have to try and start making some waves. For now, Vessalius, he's just going to farm. He's just going to make sure that BaRRaCCuDDa cannot be into these fights. And you can see JeffHindla and Metyankey really starting to rotate, but the numbers advantage are just going to be in favor of eLevate.
Now, Vessalius, talking more about the Hunter, he started with the Blue Stone. Ullr is a character that we almost always see start with that Transcendence because mana is so important. But as I sort of hinted towards during pick ban phase, Ullr is an ability-based hunter by every stretch of the imagination, and his logic, what makes him good is when you nail all of your abilities. Is the Blue Stone worth the trade-off of the later Transcendence?
It's interesting, right? If you can make it through to where you can get Transcendence and you're even with the other hunter, I think it's fine.
So it's about your ability to tread water, essentially.
It's weird, though. ScaryD being aggressed on here into the soul lane. The question is, can he live? Tether is activated. Going to be reducing a little bit of damage from Sun Wukong. You can see him actually staying in that circle, and Sun Wukong going to get stunned out, but it doesn't matter. ScaryD, he's going to fall. Baskin locked under the tower. Metyankey making big plays, and Baskin, he's going to fall to that last tower shot.
Aduro makes his rotation and cleans up the kill that will be Baskin. Metyankey does get credit for it, but a lot of wind gust damage comes out onto that solo laner, so ScaryD picks up the kill. Or Baskin picks up the kill and ScaryD gets traded out for it. So 1-for-1 right there on the side of Cloud9 versus eLevate. Mid lane, just Mytherea here for eLevate. 2 members here in Cloud9, none of which are MLC.
If Cloud9's going to win this, Baskin has to get big. And you can see so far doing a great job of really outplaying ScaryD in this lane, locking him down. Had first blood locked down, although Andinster did come over here. It helps secure it. And then once again, Baskin actually successfully able to dive. Unfortunately, though, with the man advantage, we're starting to see the rotations and so much time invested in there. Metyankey, as a support, is in the solo lane very early on.
Metyankey 2 levels above his opponent, JeffHindla now. This is actually a fun fact. This is the first time these teams are facing off against each other, and JeffHindla and Metyankey are virtually neighbors. They both live on Long Island in New York. It's very cool to see 2 people from the same area.
You know, it's funny.
Face off against
you always
each other.
talk about that, but you seem to be the only. You only seem to recognize this when they live in New York, Tom. Like, you don't know where anyone else lives, but if that player lives in New York, you've got their address, you've got their phone number. You're like, hey, man, you want to go get some lunch later? I'm going to fly
I do think it's interesting. I like the fact that, unfortunately...
There's actually a lot of New York players, to be fair.
I think New York has the most Smite players from one area. London is close, or Britain in general is pretty close.
Yeah.
You've Twig and Reels. There's a couple more people.
That's a country, right? Sure. Unless you're talking about just London, then I'm not sure. Baskin continuing to dive ScaryD under tower, already half life. Andinster's here as well, but they're taking way too long to try and lock him down. There's going to be huge rotations. You can see Aduro come in. Baskin takes to the sky. ScaryD continuing to get ganked. One hit, he actually ults into the air. Aduro able to heal him up and find a counter pick. ScaryD, he's going to fall to JeffHindla's rotation. Andinster gets to the sky just in time.
Just in time. I didn't think he was going to get out of there. But Andinster does find his way out. Now, eLevate, meanwhile, pick up the Gold Fury. A lot of action going on the right-hand side. Usually winds up with the Gold Fury going down. There's just too many people on the right side, and that is really... That's the result of the player mismatch, honestly.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why that fight didn't go bad for Cloud9, that it took them so long to finally lock down and kill ScaryD. Is because there wasn't a jungler there to counter gank. But the Gold Fury, more than worth a 1-for-1 trade. That honestly was probably already worth it, considering ScaryD, not worth that much gold, only deaths on his team, or some of the only deaths on his team.
And as we approach the 9th minute, that Gold Fury will be the first large objective of the game, putting eLevate a couple of 2,000 gold ahead. Now, keep in mind, the gold values will be skewed because Cloud9 literally have one less player. MLC Stealth has been offline for a number of minutes at this point in time. Cloud9 have used up all of their pause time, so unfortunately for Cloud9, just gotta wait and see if MLC can make it back.
ScaryD trying to secure his blue buff, but Andinster's having none of it. I mean, Cloud9 are investing so much into the soul lane, but Mytherea is able to rotate this time. No Gold Fury on the map, and they're just going to force ScaryD off, and it looks like they're going to grab a tier 1 tower, so even a man down, Cloud9 able to find the first tower in the match.
And that's no surprise to me. Cloud9 generally looking for the objectives, while eLevate looking for the kills. Andinster falls down to the hand of the mid laner, Aduro. Serqet poison is going to be on Baskin. He'll be able to walk out of there, no problem. eLevate gets a kill for none.
Blink in by Metyankey. Baskin's knocked up. ScaryD trying to find and lock down Baskin, but he does get his ult off. Aduro is covering the option, though. I don't even think he knows Aduro is there. It looks like he does. No mana available. Can he find the stun? No. Pluck not going to hit as well. Silence coming through. There's the root. There's the ult. Aduro's going to lock down Baskin.
That's a setup that Isis can bring. The stun might not have hit, but the slow was just enough for the root to come out from Metyankey. And, well, you guys saw the rest. Clean up on Isle solo. eLevate takes the kill lead 5-4. They're going to answer that solo lane tower with one of their own. Cloud9 takes the tier 1 before, but eLevate answers quickly.
Vessalius getting ganked here by Andinster. BaRRaCCuDDa actually already lost his tower in the left-hand side. And Perfect Axe going to keep that gank at bay. And so far, it seems Vessalius has been getting the better of BaRRaCCuDDa. This Bluestone Transcendence Ullr, the poke damage he has is just absurd here. And we can actually take a look at the damage. BaRRaCCuDDa has done 89 player damage. I mean, he's just farming at this point.
I like this Ullr on Vessalius. He's doing a little bit of damage. And I mean, sure, this is, it's an awkward game to really sort of measure, but out of Vessalius, he's picked this Ho Yi 3 times, and it just hasn't worked out. We've seen him pick Medusa as well. We've seen him pick these sort of off-brand picks. Medusa a little bit more normal than the Ho Yi, but the Ullr, again, as I said, so Ullr's interesting. He doesn't come in and out with the meta. He comes in and out with the players, really.
I don't want to say he's a flavor pick. He doesn't really have a bad phase in the game.
Yeah.
That's really Ullr. He has no time during the match where he is just not that strong. He's good early, has a ton of ability damage. He also has steroids in his kit. Actually, since his ult isn't an ult, it's a switch stance.
Right.
He actually has passives on that as well. 25% lifesteal at max rank on his axe stance, and I believe 25% attack speed as well. I'm not exactly sure on the numbers. If we can actually hover over that after this fight breaks out, Andinster trying to escape the last breath. Mytherea diving deep, not going to be able to pop that poison.
Poison, not enough to tick down. With Andinster running away, Cloud9, or eLevate rather, will be able to take out the mid-tier 1 tower and look towards the tier 2.
And JeffHindla, his back was stopped here. It's going to be hard for him. Teleport coming through by Baskin. It is a rank 3 teleport, maybe trying to lock someone down under tower. And actually, ScaryD flipped under tower, kept on there for a while, but he wasn't actually doing any damage to anyone, and he didn't have tower aggro for quite some time.
Shell popped. That's going to prevent some of the damage coming out from Cloud9. 2 people on eLevate are surrounded all of a sudden. Cloud9 has shown up, and BaRRaCCuDDa picks up a kill. Great double tap coming out from Andy, deals a lot of damage. Baskin picks up a kill, but it's quickly answered by Metyankey. The rest of Cloud9 chasing down eLevate. Andy gets a kill. They're down 4-5, but they're still putting in work. Aduro turns around and evens it up 7-7. And one last Spirit Ball is all eLevate has to offer. Cloud9 return. We have JeffHindla and BaRRaCCuDDa, the dual lane still alive.
Cloud9 right now, they're
five.
successfully fighting this 4-on-5. Last week what we saw is them kind of just give up. They allowed COG to play their game, and while that's what's going to happen in the end in a 4v5, they just slowly let COG get inches and inches and inches until it was they were too far apart. Now though, Cloud9, so much pressure onto that solo lane. We've even seen Andinster gank the dual lane, trying to give BaRRaCCuDDa a little bit of space, and a great fight in the mid lane, able to trade out 3 for 3. Or I guess 3 for 2, considering MLC stealth doesn't count.
Pretty much. We'll see the team sort of return to the jungle. eLevate, now everyone alive, going to just pull this Gold Fury. This is how you press a numbers advantage. Exactly.
I mean, right, 3 tier 1 towers, Gold Fury.
There's just nothing anybody can really make the rotation for. If Cloud9 does show up, they just won't have enough people to start this fight.
And what Cloud9 is doing from the looks of it is they're not really investing into wards outside of JeffHindla. What they're doing is saving all their gold for items. They want to fight, right? They're not going to be able to win a ward battle. There's no point in trying. Get as much gold as you can and win the fight. Spend it on items that are going to be doing damage here. Double tap in the jungle. ScaryD taking some. Tier 2 pressured, but it looks like with the back forced, I don't think Cloud9 is going to be able to fight this one.
Yeah, there's only 2 members from C9 here able to really provide much of anything. Andinster's going to come around from the right-hand side. He will be met by Serqet, but he puts down the wall with no regrets. He's going to blink forward and just run away. Run away, Andy.
He's trying to waste some time as much as he can. 5 members of eLevate grouped up in the middle lane. Baskin trying to clear the waves here, and it looks like they're just roaming right now as a kill squad, trying to find picks, and it's going to be Baskin caught out here. He has no beads available. If he gets hit by this stun, it's going to look bad for him. Is the last breath coming out? No, it's going to be Baskin taking to the sky first, recognizing if he got hit by anything, he probably would have fallen there, and just eLevate playing this very well so far.
They understand that the Sun Wukong is just a distraction. Anything Cloud9 can do right now, I mean, we spoke to, or I spoke to Kret, rather, when Eager had a disconnect problem. And he said, yeah, I mean, we just sort of wasted time hoping that our player could reconnect. And Cloud9 is doing that. As you said, Thor over on the right-hand side, split pushing. We saw Sun Wukong sort of create a distraction. Anything Cloud9 can do to take eLevate off of the straight objective targets is a good thing. Wasting time for Cloud9, or is it positive? And if you wind up getting a kill like Andy does solo on ScaryD,
is 1 in 5 in a 4v5 match right now. I mean, this is the advantage that Cloud9 is going to have to pressure right now. They weren't able to grab the tier 2 tower, but once again, putting more kills onto Andinster, more kills onto Baskin. They're just trying to get the farm. And ScaryD, though, it's just like he's getting so much farm from tower that he's able to stay even, so it's not that big of a deal. And now, though, BaRRaCCuDDa and all of C9 being very aggressive, maybe trying to get something rolling here on this tier 1 tower, but Mytherea not going to let him catch him out.
The rest of Cloud9 still here on the left side. Andy will make it into the mid lane. I almost thought Cloud9 was going to go ahead and start pushing that left lane because, yeah, Mytherea is there, but a Serqet versus a Hunter and a Sun Wukong, it's not exactly a winning matchup.
Cloud9, it's starting to look rough for them. They were able to fight, but now eLevate, after grabbing these towers, stealing away jungle buffs, now it's getting to a point where it's not going to be easy for them. You saw them try and split push, and while they were able to kill ScaryD 1 versus 2, they weren't able to grab the tower, and that's what they were looking for primarily. ScaryD, while he did die, was able to successfully stop that. Even Metyankey right now, he's level 14. He's a level above Andinster.
Andy, 13, does get the stun, hits with the double tap, looking for more. Berserker Barrage going to be rooted out. Metyankey now has some support by way of Mytherea on the Serqet. The whole team of Cloud9 is here, all 4 members, while eLevate tries to make the response. Still looking on the defensive. Circle of Protection has popped out of Aduro a little bit early. Up in the sky is Sun Wukong, so is Thor. BaRRaCCuDDa picks up the kill before Andy even lands. JeffHindla in some trouble. Not going to be stunned out as Mytherea picks up the Thor. And Vessalius picks up JeffHindla. And Cloud9 suffers 2 deaths in that one to eLevate's single Aduro fall. And eLevate will look 4 onto the Fire Giant.
Baskin going to be trying to defend this Fire Giant, but actually gets taunted out there. Mytherea being so aggressive, not scared of the damage from Sun Wukong. Fire Giant It's not at half yet, and it looks like eLevate wants to fight, but BaRRaCCuDDa has come back into this fight, not able to find enough auto attacks to lock down Mytherea.
Fire Giant's still very high.
And Vessalius actually taking way too much damage. eLevate, they don't know exactly what they want to do, it seems, and in indecisiveness, they're going to fall off.
The presence alone was enough.
It scared them off. That's important for Cloud9 here, but it's getting so hard. You can see them winning fights, but that last engagement, what they did is they invested so much trying to kill a Sylvanus who is higher level than almost everyone on their team outside of Baskin. It's not going to happen, and invested so much. By the time Aduro came in, even though he did fall, was just able to put so much damage off.
Yeah, Met put himself in the position for Cloud9 to start to attack, but the second Mytherea or Aduro or anyone else comes into the conversation, you change targets from the tanky support into somebody more, well, killable.
Yeah.
They do get Aduro out of that engagement, so they did switch the target onto Aduro, but unable to really finish that conversation as the rest of eLevate really came out and dealt damage. Now, eLevate's going to take a look at the Fire Giant for a second time. Remember, Cloud9 was able to chase them off with basically just Baskin and a Hunter.
This is a little bit different, though. We actually see Mytherea solo zoning. He actually throws Baskin back in, and Mytherea already under half. He's going to die to the poison there. Fire Giant, it's low. Ice Assault, is it going to be enough to finish it?
Yes, it will. Ice Assault, too strong to secure the objectives, and it goes down. Cloud9 going to fight now, while left-hand side, Andinster, all by his lonesome, is going to be split pushing. Cloud9 understands that they're outnumbered and outbuffed. The Fire Giant buffed eLevate. Looking very, very strong here. Wants to turn around. Opts not to. And the teleport going to come out onto Andinster as he barks down the Tier 2 tower.
Gold Fury's up, and I noticed that they gave up on that fight at Cloud9. Once the Fire Giant went through, they didn't want to keep fighting into it. Vessalius, though, going to catch Andinster on this rotation. BaRRaCCuDDa's here as well, though. Andinster taking a lot of damage. JeffHindla, he's in the mid lane as well. Vessalius has to jump out, but now ScaryD rotating in after teleporting that tower. And all of eLevate, with that Fire Giant buff ticking, we're not going to see Vessalius have to back.
Almost 20 minutes in here, folks. 19.5 on the clock. 9-10 read the kills, and Cloud9 4-5, unfortunately, on the total roster. MLC Stealth has been out since the very beginning minutes of this game, unfortunately. Used all their pauses, not able to find a reconnect, and because of that, eLevate have been looking, well, rich. 9,000 gold above their opponent, and with that gold fury, that's going to put them a solid 10K.
Right now, I'm looking at Aduro. 5,000 gold lead on MLC Stealth.
Stop.
That was a good joke. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen an individual player down 5K. Gotta lighten it up a little bit, man. It's rough. I mean, Cloud9, though, they actually leading in kills right now. eLevate is, while they're winning the 4v5, they're not really winning the 4v5.
Well, eLevate is getting picked off a lot, and Cloud9 has pretty much just relegated Thor into being the split pusher. They're making Thor just go ahead and go to different places on the map, not wanting to be around the fights, so that he can get the tower damage in that could open the door for Cloud9 sneaking a 4v5 win.
Right now, Cloud9, it's at the point where they just have to hold on until they're level 20. eLevate, not going to let it happen, though. You can see them. They've already eliminated every single tower in the map, and they're playing this perfectly. They're splitting up both lanes. They're forcing Cloud9, who are already a man down, to separate their team. Cloud9 wants to fight as 5, and eLevate want them to fight as 2.
eLevate's going to bring the fight into the mid lane. Metyankey tosses a couple of people in the air, and before anything even starts, Aduro adds 1 to his kill column. Baskin's decoy will chase. Well, BaRRaCCuDDa, Thor, and Baskin will all sit underneath the mid Phoenix. Still, no one dead. Phoenix alive. Pushing in is eLevate. Judgment Tether will lower some of the damage coming out. And before Andy can even do anything, Mytherea claims his kill. Andy and JeffHindla down for the count. Baskin and BaRRaCCuDDa the only ones alive as eLevate barrels past the mid and heads right into the left.
That's that direct matchup I'm talking about. Serqet versus Thor. Thor throws his hammer, trying to get out of the fight, thought he was there clean, but then the silence actually comes out from the ultimate on Mytherea, and just nothing they can do. 2 Phoenixes down. Cloud9, they did a fantastic job of fighting this one back, but I don't think it's going to happen for this game. And now eLevate going for the final Phoenix. BaRRaCCuDDa, JeffHindla, and Baskin trying to defend it. They're going to pluck Aduro into the back line. Fantastic stun, and actually Mytherea diving deep too, going to take a ton of damage. ScaryD is forced off of this, so the Phoenix is still up, and at C9, they're trying to fight.
Hindla pops the shell, but unfortunately immediately taken out by the accuracy of ScaryD. Master's Will's going to slow a bunch of people.
Andinster's in the air.
Baskin not
this could be a big fight.
Aggressive. Andy changing his mind. Metyankey already very low. Down from the sky lands Thor, a little bit ahead of the pack, but immediately wants to be a little bit careful. Double tap coming out. Metyankey could fall, so could Vessalius. Cloud9 needs just a little bit more, but Baskin falls, and with that, I don't think Cloud9 has the front line.
BaRRaCCuDDa has no mana, nowhere to go, and only Andinster is left alive. Blinking by Mytherea, and he's not able to find the kill, and with everyone dead and MLC Stealth disconnected, this first game is going to go in favor of eLevate.
That's all she put in the book, folks. We're going to see eLevate come down right in here. Don't forget, all of the Phoenixes are dead, which means this Titan is very, very, very vulnerable. And because of that, eLevate takes the first game in a 2-game split. Cloud9 falls.
eLevate able to, they're 2-1 now with the Duro. So that's something to look at. That game, though, Cloud9 actually fought very well down a man. I mean, they were doing a very good job. One thing to note, I just want to remind people, Cloud9 once again did not check in a substitute, so MLC Stealth, if he's not able to reconnect, they will have to forfeit that match.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Of course, if you guys are just joining us, wondering why everything was going on, we allow 3 pauses, total of 9 minutes of pause time here in the SPL, and unfortunately, MLC Stealth unable to reconnect in that time. The show must go on, and so the game continued, and eLevate, well, they took out the win.
So right now, Cloud9 are going to be struggling for victories. They actually are going to be able to go into this next match here shortly. Cloud9 really need this win. I mean, losing that game to the internet issues or connection issues, it's so bad, especially considering they have TSM coming up. Right. I talked about how vital it was for them to 2-0 eLevate. It's impossible now. So they have to walk away with a win here. And honestly, they have to 2-0 TSM for me later on this week.
Team Solo Mid going to prove to be a tough opponent, but I think Cloud9 has really come into themselves as far as like letting Baskin sort of get ready with the team and understanding what he can bring.
They looked good.
Yeah.
They looked really good, and Baskin and Andinster, their synergy was on point. They fought into the 4v5. They were actually winning in kills until the last couple engagements here. Getting in